Hey fellow foodies, how you doing? It's in between Christmas and New Year's, and it's time to make something that's very homey and comforting, a nice earthy vegetable beef pot pie. Absolutely delicious. If you're tired of all the holiday food, this is exactly what you're going to need. In a Dutch oven, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You can use whatever oil you like. Try to stay with polyunsaturated oil like olive or canola. Those are the best. And once that oil is up to temperature, we're going to brown about 1 pound of stewing beef. Now, if you don't have any stewing beef and you got some steaks sitting around in the freezer that you need to use up, cut them up and use it for this. I quite often will cut up steaks if I don't find stewing beef on sale, and actually cut up steak is almost better. You can get them on sale quite often in my store, so I use steaks interchangeably with stewing beef. You pay extra to have the butcher cut steaks up into chunks, so if you can do it yourself, please do. You need to keep this beef in a single layer because if you pile it up too much, you're going to end up getting a lot of water coming out of the meat, and you're going to get just kind of an insipid color of beef rather than nicely browned. Keep the temperature really high and keep zhuzhing that stuff around until the meat turns brown. I'm going to throw on the lid because that'll bring the temperature up even higher. Look how nice and brown that meat is. Delicious. I'm going to season with some salt and pepper. Be generous with the pepper and not so generous with the salt. We're going to add a lot of ingredients to this, and you don't want to make this salty. I'm adding a dash of Maggi. It adds a great umami flavor to beef and vegetables. It's made from vegetable. It's yummy. I'm also adding a tablespoon of browning. I want this stew to look really beefy looking. I don't know if you've had it. You've made stew some days and the gravy looks kind of gray. Well, this fixes that wonderfully. It adds a beautiful brown kind of mahogany color to your gravy. I'm adding some porcini powder. This is certainly optional. Fresh porcinis are very expensive. I found this powder at a import food store, and it adds delicious earthy mushroom flavor. It's certainly optional, you don't have to use this. I'm adding 1 liter of mushroom broth. If you can't find mushroom broth, vegetable broth would be good. Beef broth would be good. I'm trying to really develop the earthy flavor of this stew. Mushrooms are very earthy. Along with some of the other root vegetables we're going to add 2 to 3 potatoes, 2 cups of turnip, 2 carrots, and 2 stalks of celery with the leaves. All very earthy vegetables that will make a delicious beef stew. Continuing on with the earthiness, I'm adding a quart of brown mushrooms or cremini. I would use any mushroom other than white button mushrooms just because the brown mushrooms have much more flavor. But if you really like button mushrooms, please use them. The small white ones would be perfect. But get as much flavor as you can. You see where I'm headed with this. It's all about the earthiness of this stew. Turnip adds a great earthy flavor, as do carrots and celery. It just makes everything so good. I put the lid on and I've popped that in the oven for about 2 hours. You'll have to check the beef to make sure it's tender. And now I'm adding a starch slurry while this is bubbling away. I've used a potato starch slurry, but you can use anything you like. Cornstarch is good, flour is good, tapioca flour is good, arrowroot is good, whatever you prefer. These starches don't add any flavor to the stew, it only thickens the gravy up. I've used potato because it kind of goes together with this, and the texture of potato starch is a bit hardier than, let's say, cornstarch, which seems to be kind of clear looking, more of a Chinese style thickener. I've made the stew quite thick because we're not quite finished with the cooking, and I don't want it to get kind of thin because of vegetables. Vegetables will exude a lot of water and it'll thin down your gravy eventually. So starch comes to its full thickening power once it's boiling. So you really need to bring this up to a boil and let it go for a little bit and get beautifully thick. Now I've just had a taste of the gravy and I've found that it's a bit bland, so this is a time where you need to re-season, add some salt and pepper. If you want to make this a bit spicy, add some chili flakes if you like. Some cayenne pepper would be good, some hot paprika would be good, whatever you like. I tend to like the flavor of this stew as is without any heat, but that's me, I'm kind of a wimp, you know that. It's gotten beautifully thick, very luxurious looking. Doesn't that look good? And we're not done yet. We're going to add a short pie crust. You can buy these frozen at your local grocery store. You can make it yourself if you're a dab hand at pie crusts. I am not, so I buy them and they're just as good. I'm basting with some plant-based butter here. We want the crust to be beautifully brown and crunchy. That's the topping for a delicious pot pie. You need to put this back in the oven for whatever length of time and temperature the instructions on the pastry crust box tell you. There it is finished. Doesn't it look good? It's bubbling. The crust is brown and delicious. You need to let this sit for about 10 to 15 minutes to calm down. And there it is finished. Serve this up with a beautiful green salad and you have a great meal for in between the holidays. If you like the recipe, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel. Love to have you here with me. Thanks for stopping by for some more beef stew that warms your soul. We'll see you next time.